Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Sukudantika. Hare Krishna. We are continuing to read teachings from Lord Chaitanya. So this is the section of conversation Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy. So Lord Chaitanya accepted these principles, but he requested Ramananda Roy to go further in advanced devotional service. Lord Chaitanya gave Ramananda Roy a chance to develop gradually the advancement from the principles of Varna, Ashrama, Dharma, caste, and the four orders of spiritual life, and further offering the results of all fruitive activities. Then he recommended discussion of spiritual knowledge. Lord Chaitanya rejected all of this because in the field of executing pure devotional service, there is very little use for such principles. Artificial methods of devotional service without self-realization cannot be accepted as pure devotional service. Self-realized pure devotee service is completely different from all other kinds of transcendental activities. The highest stage of transcendental activities is always free from all material desires and fruitive activities and speculative attempts at knowledge. The highest stage concentrates on a simple, favorable execution of pure devotional service. Ramananda Roy could understand the motive of Lord Chaitanya, and therefore he stated that attainment of pure love of Godhead is the highest perfectional stage. There is a very nice verse in Padyavala, which is understood to be composed by Ramananda Roy himself. The purport of that verse is, as long as there is hunger within the belly and one has a feeling for eating and drinking, by taking anything eatable, one becomes happy. Similarly, there may be much paraphernalia for worshipping the Supreme Lord, but when that is mixed with pure love of Godhead, it becomes an actual source of transcendental happiness. There is another verse in that connection composed by Ramananda Roy, in which it is stated that even after millions and millions of births, one cannot achieve a sense of devotional service. But if somehow or other one becomes desirous of achieving the stage of devotional service, the association of a pure devotee will help such a strong desire for serving the Lord to become prominent. One should try to have such a strong desire to become engaged in devotional service. If it is available from any source, In these two verses, Ramananda Roy has described first the regulative principles and second, the developed love of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya wanted to bring him up to this stage of developed love of Godhead and to speak from that basis. Therefore, the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya will now proceed on the basis of love of Godhead. If love of Godhead becomes elevated to personal affinity, that is called Prema Bhakti. In the beginning of Prema Bhakti, there is establishment of a particular relationship between the Supreme Lord and the devotee. But when this stage of Prema Bhakti develops further, there is manifested in different transcendental flavors a relationship with the Supreme Lord. The first stage is called servitude, to accept the Supreme Lord as a master and the devotee as the eternal servitor. When Lord Chaitanya accepted this process, Ramananda Roy described the relationship of the servitor and the master. As cited in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 5th chapter, Durvasa Muni was a great mystic yogi and considered himself to be very elevated. Yet he envied Maharaj Ambarish, who was known as the greatest devotee of the time. Durvasa Muni wanted to harass Maharaj Ambarish, and as a result, he met with great catastrophe. And Durvasa Muni was defeated by the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord. The yogi admitted his fault and said, for pure devotees who are always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, nothing is considered impossible to obtain because they are engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hearing his name is sufficient for liberation. Yamuna Acharya has composed various verses in his book, Stotra Ratna, In this Shrotra Ratna, Yamunacharya writes a nice verse, the purport of which is as follows. My Lord, persons who are keeping themselves independent of your service are helpless. They are working on their own account and have no support from superior authority. Therefore, I long for the time when I shall be fully engaged in your transcendental loving service without any desire for material satisfaction or hovering over the material plane. When I shall be engaged in such an unalloyed devotional service, I shall enjoy actual spiritual life. On hearing that statement of Ramananda Roy, the Lord requested him to go still further. Okay, let's just end here then. That's new chapter tomorrow. So very beautiful section, right? This is indeed a very beautiful section, the conversation, because so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself in the mood of Radharani. And then we will wonder, right? Why is he asking all these questions to Ramananda Roy? But really, this conversation is really just to churn, right? That, the topic of really transcendental, pure devotional service. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing. And Ramananda Roy is also pure devotee of the Lord. We know that, right? He is actually the form of, like, Ramananda Roy is Lalita Sakhi and Vishaka combined. So it is like, we know they are pure devotees. We know they already know the answer to everything, but it is really a pastime. They're churning all of those answers, and also for our benefit, because now we can also hear that conversation. But really, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started, right, asking what is that really the highest level of devotional service. And then Ramananda Roy started off with the Varnashram Dharma and all of that, he said, but he said, just go further and go further. And that's where then it is taking further to understanding the loving relationship with the Lord. And the important part is where we can be completely not selfish, but our focus is really on Krishna. That's what the difference is, because we see, right, there are so many temples, there are so many of everything going on around everywhere us. But what makes us different, what makes our movement different, is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has really given us the topmost level of bhakti, which again, it is like giving, they say, right, giving pearls to a monkey. Monkey doesn't understand the value of pearls. So, like, that's the condition, like our condition, because we don't even understand what this is, right? But the pearls have been given in our hands, and we are then just trying to understand what does it even mean. Only thing, what our only holding hope is that we are following our Guru Maharaj, our, you see, our senior devotees and acharyas in this path. They have all understood this, they have all experienced it, internalized it. But as I said, we have no idea of what this conception is. But just because we are holding on to them, holding on to Srila Prabhupada's, dhoti, it's like, please take us with you. Please make us understand what this is even about and take us to where we need to go. That's the only hope, really, because this is such a high level, such a high transcendental level. Even from learning from Madhurya Kadambini, we remember, right, the 9 stages. And we are right now, I mean, at least I can speak for myself, like in the initial stages where even I'm going through that Anartha Nivritti, a lot of Anartha Nivritti. So even to get to the other stages is like such a high level. But as I said earlier, just understanding that this is what the goal is. This is where the end of, like, the plane is going to take us to the travel destination, right? So that's what we understand, and we continue with our path, continue with the teachings, and relish this nectar of conversation with the acharyas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With that, I would like to end. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.